fost doar un copil, am avut 12 ani. Da, eram doar o sclavă pentru ei.
Romanian girls are big business.
I have a 13-year-old girl right here who's desperately trying to get back to her 52-year-old lover boy.
Is Erika Kirk banned from a European country for trafficking children? Well, so some people are saying on social media. You can see a couple of the posts here.
For months, their voices were buried under fear, distance, and silence. But now, the Romanian victims are finally speaking out. And what they're revealing has sent shockwaves across borders. According to newly emerging testimonies, multiple individuals from Romania claim they were manipulated, silenced, and left powerless while the world looked the other way. Names were whispered in private. Evidence was hidden in plain sight. And at the center of the storm, Erika Kirk. What makes this moment different? The victims are no longer alone and the story is no longer local. Sources now confirm that Interpol has stepped in, signaling that these allegations have crossed from online controversy into a matter of international concern. This isn't just internet drama anymore. This is about alleged exploitation, cross-border accountability, and whether powerful figures can still outrun the truth as statements surface and timelines begin to align. Disturbing patterns are coming into focus, patterns the victims say were ignored for far too long. Why did it take this long for authorities to act? Who knew more than they admitted? And what happens when silence finally breaks? With global attention intensifying and international agencies now involved, one question remains impossible to ignore. Is this the beginning of real justice or just the start of an even darker revelation? Stay with us. This story is far from over. For years, the people at the center of this story say they lived with a quiet, suffocating fear, one that crossed borders, languages, and legal systems. According to multiple Romanian individuals now coming forward, what began as private interactions slowly escalated into a situation they claim left them manipulated, pressured, and ultimately silenced. Until now, in recent weeks, a series of testimonies emerging from Romania have drawn international attention, not only because of the seriousness of the allegations, but because of the name repeatedly mentioned, Erika Kirk. It is important to be clear these are allegations, not convictions. However, the consistency of the accounts, combined with growing international scrutiny, has pushed the matter far beyond online speculation. The silence that lasted years, several of the Romanian individuals speaking out say their silence was not voluntary. Some describe feeling intimidated by perceived power imbalances. Others cite fear of retaliation, reputational harm, or legal consequences they did not fully understand at the time. Romania's legal system, language barriers, and the international nature of the interactions allegedly made reporting feel overwhelming, if not impossible. One alleged victim, who asked to remain anonymous, described the experience as being trapped in a system where the rules kept changing. Others claimed they were encouraged to stay quiet for their own good, a phrase that appears repeatedly across different testimonies. Whether these pressures were real, implied, or misunderstood is now part of what investigators are attempting to determine. What is striking is not just the content of the claims, but their similarity. Different individuals speaking separately describe comparable patterns: initial trust building, escalating control, emotional pressure, and eventual isolation. Critics caution that similarity alone does not prove wrongdoing, but it does raise questions that authorities can no longer ignore. Why Romania? And why now? Romania has increasingly become a focal point in cross-border investigations, especially in cases involving online interactions, financial disputes, and alleged exploitation. Legal experts say that when actions span multiple countries, jurisdictional confusion can delay accountability, according to sources familiar with the situation. Some of the alleged activities involved communications, transactions, or arrangements that crossed national borders. That international element appears to be a key reason the case has escalated beyond local law enforcement. So why now? Those close to the alleged victims say timing played a critical role. Over the past year, several individuals reportedly reconnected, compared experiences, and realized they were not alone. This collective awareness, combined with growing public conversations about accountability and abuse of power, created what one source called a moment where silence felt more dangerous than speaking. The role of Interpol, the mention of Interpol, has dramatically changed the tone of the conversation. While Interpol does not arrest individuals directly, its involvement typically signals that national authorities are cooperating on a matter with potential international implications. Legal. Analysts emphasize that Interpol's role does not indicate guilt. Instead, it suggests that information sharing, verification of identities, and cross-border coordination may now be underway. This can include tracking movements, validating documents, or facilitating communication between law enforcement agencies in different countries. For the alleged victims, Interpol's involvement represents something they say they never expected: visibility. One individual reportedly said for the first time, "It feels like someone is actually listening." Online narratives versus legal reality. As news of the allegations spread online, narratives quickly became polarized. Supporters of Erika Kirk argue that the accusations are exaggerated, politically motivated, or part of a coordinated smear campaign. They point out the lack of formal charges and warn against trial-by-internet. On the other side, advocates for the alleged victims argue that public pressure is often the only way marginalized voices are heard, especially when power and influence are involved. They note that many high-profile cases throughout history began with allegations that were initially dismissed. This tension highlights a critical issue: the difference between public opinion and legal proof. Courts rely on evidence, not virality. Investigators will be looking for documentation, messages, financial records, travel logs, witness statements that either corroborate or contradict the claims. The human cost beyond legal arguments and media debates. There is a human cost that often gets lost. Mental health professionals note that individuals who believe they were manipulated or exploited frequently experience long-term psychological effects, including anxiety, distrust, and shame. Several of the Romanian individuals reportedly sought counseling before deciding to speak publicly. According to one source, some still fear backlash, online harassment, or being disbelieved. Coming forward doesn't end the trauma, the source said. Sometimes it intensifies it. This fear may explain why some accounts are anonymous and why details are being released gradually rather than all at once. What? Erika Kirk hasn't said as of now. Erika Kirk has not been found guilty of any wrongdoing related to these claims. Any statements attributed to her or her representatives have emphasized denial of allegations and the importance of due process. Supporters argue that being named in allegations does not equate to responsibility, and they warn against damaging reputations without full investigations. Critics counter that silence or limited responses only fuel suspicion. This standoff between denial and demand for answers is likely to continue as authorities sort fact from fiction. A turning point. Not a verdict. This story is not about conclusions. It is about a shift. Romanian individuals who once felt powerless are now speaking publicly. International mechanisms that once felt distant are now involved. And a situation that many dismissed as online drama is being reframed as a serious cross-border matter. Whether these allegations lead to charges, are disproven, or result in a more complex truth remains unknown. What is clear is that the era of silence is over. We will examine the specific patterns alleged by the Romanian victims, the timelines they describe, and the key inconsistencies that investigators are now reportedly scrutinizing. The deeper this story goes, the harder it becomes to ignore, and the more urgent the search for truth becomes. As more Romanian individuals come forward, investigators and observers are no longer asking if there is a pattern, but what that pattern reveals. According to multiple testimonies, the experiences described do not appear random or isolated. Instead, they follow a sequence that alleged victims say repeated itself across different people, different timelines, and different circumstances. Again, it is crucial to emphasize these are allegations, not legal conclusions. But the similarities have become impossible to ignore. A familiar beginning, trust and access, several. Romanian individuals describe the same starting point initial contact that felt ordinary, even supportive. Some say they were approached with opportunities, promises of help, or emotional reassurance during vulnerable moments in their lives. Others claim the relationship began professionally before shifting into something more personal. At this stage, there were no red flags, at least not obvious ones. Communication was frequent, affirming, and often framed as confidential. Alleged victims say this created a sense of exclusivity, where trust was built quickly and boundaries slowly blurred. Experts who study coercive dynamics note that this phase is critical. Rapid trust building can create emotional dependence, making it harder for individuals to recognize manipulation when it begins. Escalation, pressure, control, and confusion according to the testimonies. The dynamic allegedly changed once trust was established. Several individuals describe subtle but increasing pressure requests that felt difficult to refuse. Emotional leverage, or warnings framed as concern. Some claim they were made to feel responsible for potential consequences, such as reputational damage or legal trouble. If the did not comply. Others allege that information they shared in confidence was later used to intimidate or silence them. A recurring theme in the accounts is confusion. Alleged victims say rules changed without explanation, expectations shifted, and communication alternated between reassurance and withdrawal. This unpredictability, they claim, left them constantly trying to fix the situation without fully understanding what they had done wrong. Psychologists describe this tactic as destabilizing, keeping individuals off balance, so they rely more heavily on the person in control. Isolation and silence. Perhaps the most disturbing similarity across accounts is the alleged push toward isolation. Some Romanian individuals claim they were discouraged from speaking to friends, family, or legal advisors. Others say they were warned explicitly or implicitly that talking would make things worse. Language barriers and jurisdictional uncertainty reportedly deepened this isolation. Several individuals believed that because the situation crossed borders, reporting it would be pointless or even dangerous. One source familiar with the testimonies said they didn't know which country's laws applied or if any would protect them at all. This uncertainty, combined with fear, appears to have kept many silent for years. Timelines that overlap when alleged victims began comparing their experiences. Overlapping timelines reportedly emerged. Different individuals claim similar phases occurred during similar periods: initial contact, escalation, withdrawal, and silence. Investigators are said to be closely examining these overlaps, not as proof, but as potential indicators of coordination or repeated behavior. Digital communication records, travel data, and financial transactions, if they exist, could either support or dismantle these claims. Legal analysts stress that patterns alone are not evidence, but they can guide where investigators look and which questions they ask. Contradictions and defates. Argument supporters of Erika Kirk argue that these alleged patterns are being retroactively imposed on unrelated events. They claim that normal disagreements, misunderstandings, or failed relationships are being reframed as exploitation. Some also question why no formal complaints were filed earlier. Advocates for the alleged victims respond that fear, confusion, and power imbalance often delay reporting, especially in cross-border situations. This clash of narratives is now central to the case. Investigators must determine whether the similarities reflect misconduct or coincidence amplified by public discourse. The internet's double-edged sword. The online spread of this story has helped alleged victims find one another, but it has also complicated the situation. False claims, exaggerations, and speculation risk undermining legitimate concerns. Legal experts warn that misinformation could damage both sides, tainting evidence, influencing witnesses, and fueling harassment. This is why authorities typically prefer quiet investigations over viral exposure. Yet for those speaking out, the internet was the only place they felt safe enough to be heard. Why this part matters is about structure. How individual stories may connect into something larger. If investigators confirm these alleged patterns, the case could shift dramatically. If they don't, the accusations may collapse under scrutiny. Either outcome depends on evidence, not emotion. What remains undeniable is that Romanian individuals who once felt isolated have found strength in shared experience. Whether that experience points to wrongdoing or misunderstanding is what the investigation must now determine. As this story moves into its most critical phase, the focus is no longer only on what allegedly happened, but on what happens next. With Romanian victims speaking openly, international attention growing, and Interpol reportedly facilitating cross-border coordination, the situation has reached a point where silence is no longer an option for anyone involved. This is where allegations either evolve into accountability or unravel under scrutiny. What accountability could actually look like despite widespread online speculation? Accountability does not automatically mean arrests or convictions. Legal experts stress that international cases move slowly, especially when they involve multiple jurisdictions, languages, and legal standards. Possible outcomes range widely. Formal investigations by national authorities using shared intelligence requests for documentation, including digital communications, financial records, and travel histories, witness interviews conducted under oath. In multiple countries, or if evidence does not meet legal thresholds, cases quietly closed. Interpol's role, if ongoing, would primarily be coordination, helping law enforcement agencies exchange verified information. This stage is about building a factual foundation, not public judgment, for the Romanian individuals who came forward. Even being taken seriously is a form of accountability. They say they were denied for years. The pressure on Erika Kirk. Public figures named in allegations often face two parallel trials, one legal, one reputational. While courts demand evidence, public opinion moves faster and is far less forgiving. Supporters of Erika Kirk continue to emphasize the absence of charges and warn against destroying someone's life over unproven claims. Kay argue that online narratives have already gone too far, blurring the line between allegation and fact. At the same time, critics argue that influence and visibility should bring greater scrutiny, not immunity. They insist that answering questions transparently rather than remaining vague, or silence, the only way to restore credibility. This tension places Erika Kirk at the center of a growing storm, regardless of how the investigation ultimately concludes. The risk for the alleged victim speaking out carries consequences. Several Romanian individuals reportedly fear legal retaliation, online harassment, or being accused of fabrication. Some have already faced skepticism, mockery, or threats since their stories gained attention. Advocates say this backlash is precisely why many victims stay silent. The cost of telling the truth can feel higher than the cost of living with it. One source familiar with the situation explained. Yet, despite the risks, more individuals are reportedly considering coming forward. Investigators often see this in cases involving alleged patterns. One voice is validated. Others feel safer speaking. Media, misinformation, and the danger of distortion. One of the biggest threats to the truth is noise. As content creators, commentators, and anonymous accounts flood the internet with theories, real facts risk being buried. False documents, edited screenshots, and exaggerated claims can undermine legitimate testimonies. Legal experts warn that such distortion can actively harm investigations, giving defense teams grounds to challenge credibility. This is why authorities are expected to rely on verified evidence, not viral content. The louder the internet gets, the more careful investigators must be. A defining moment, this case now sits at a crossroads. If evidence supports the Romanian victim's claims, the implications could extend far beyond one individual, raising questions about cross-border accountability, online power dynamics, and how easily silence can be enforced across countries. If the allegations fail to hold up, the consequences will be just as serious, highlighting how reputations can be damaged by collective accusation and how critical due process truly is. Either way, something irreversible has already happened. The silence is broken. The question that remains at its core: this story is not just about Erika Kirk or Romania. It's about what happens when ordinary people challenge systems they believe protected someone else for too long, and whether international mechanisms are capable of responding fairly. Justice does not move at the speed of outrage. It moves at the speed of proof. As pressure mounts, one truth is clear: this case will not disappear quietly. Whether it ends in accountability, exoneration, or a more complicated reality, the world is now watching and waiting for facts to catch up with the noise. If you've followed this story from the beginning, one thing should be clear: this is bigger than headlines, rumors, or online arguments. It's about truth, accountability, and whether voices that were ignored for years will finally be heard or dismissed once again. Now is the moment where attention matters. Investigations don't happen in a vacuum. Public awareness keeps pressure on systems to act carefully, fairly, and transparently. That doesn't mean rushing to judgment. It means demanding facts, evidence, and due process for everyone involved. If you believe victims deserve to be heard and the accused deserve a fair process, stay engaged. Share this story responsibly. Challenge misinformation when you see it. Refuse to turn serious allegations into entertainment or hate campaigns. Subscribe, follow, and turn on notifications so you don't miss verified updates as this case develops. New information, official responses, and critical evidence could change everything, and when that happens, context will matter more than ever. Most importantly, remember this: silence protects confusion, not truth. Whether these allegations are proven or disproven, sunlight is the only way forward. Stay informed, stay critical, stay human, stay human.